Hello, this is Miss Brothers, and I'll be reading chapter 4 of this book. Previously, it was Friday morning, and now it is Saturday afternoon on April 13th. Everything is going well, Bruce Ismay told Captain Smith. Passengers relaxing in the first-class reception room couldn't help but overhear the two men talking. It was early Saturday afternoon, and the Titanic was in the middle of the Atlantic Ocean. So far, their voyage had been perfect. The weather, although cold, had been clear. The sea was calm, and the Titanic was making excellent time. The passengers were glad to hear their captain and the owner of the ship sounding so confident. Bruce Ismay and Captain Smith compared the Titanic's performance with that of its sister ship, the Olympic. In its first day at sea, the Titanic had covered 484 miles. The Olympic had traveled 458 miles on its first day. The second day, the Titanic had fallen behind a bit. It had made 519 miles, compared with the Olympic's 524. So far, the Titanic was steaming as fast as the Olympic had on its first voyage. Could the Titanic pick up the pace and outdo her sister ship? "We made a better run today than we did yesterday," Ismay told Captain Smith. "We will make a better run tomorrow. Things are working smoothly. The machinery is bearing the test. The boilers are working well." Ismay, growing excited, brought his fist down onto the arm of his chair. "We will beat the Olympic and get into New York on Tuesday," he declared. Although the Titanic's boilers and engines were performing well, not all the ship's systems were perfect. Late in the day on Saturday, Harold Bride and Jack Phillips noticed something wrong with the ship's wireless. Before long, it had broken down completely. The two men worked feverishly to find the trouble. All Saturday night and into the early morning hours on Sunday, they fiddled with the set. Meanwhile, passengers' messages piled up in their in basket. Finally, at about 5 o'clock on Sunday morning, Phillips and Bride got the wireless set running again and began to send out the huge backlog of messages. If anything gave them a sense of relief, it was knowing that they would soon come within range of North America. This meant they could send their messages directly to a wireless station. The messages would be passed immediately to their destination, instead of being relayed from ship to ship. As the Titanic's passengers woke up on Sunday morning, they were greeted by beautiful weather. Only one thing spoiled the fine day. The air had grown colder, so most passengers had to pass the time indoors. Daniel Buckley and some third-class passengers braved the chill to come out on the rear well deck behind the boat deck. There, in the bright cold sunshine, they played a skipping game similar to hopscotch. Another passenger came out with a set of bagpipes on which he played sad tunes. Meanwhile, the first-class passenger, Archibald Gracie, was feeling restless after 2 days with no exercise. Early Sunday morning, he headed down to G-Deck, where he played a vigorous game of squash, then went for a swim in the heated pool just around the corner from the court. The warm water was soothing and comfortable, unlike the icy ocean, kept out by the steel hull of the ship, less than an inch thick, which Gracie could almost touch from the side of the pool. In the second-class dining saloon, Ruth Becker was growing to like the Titanic. The best part about it was that everything was new. Ruth liked knowing that when she sat down to her first meal aboard the ship, she was the very first person to ever eat off the plate in front of her. The sheets on the bed in her cabin were crisp and fresh. She was the first person ever to use them. Even the carpets in the lounges and dining saloons smelled new. After breakfast, Ruth and the rest of the Becker family stayed in the dining saloon for Sunday services. The highlight of the service was the hymns. This Sunday, the room was filled with the sounds of the passengers singing, "O God, our help in ages past." Up in the officers' quarters, Captain Smith was faced with a decision. There had been a lifeboat drill scheduled for 11:30 on Sunday morning. For the drill, each crew member would have to proceed to the boat deck and take his position by the emergency lifeboats. As captain, EJ knew how important it was for his crew to be prepared for an emergency. Still, the Titanic was obviously a very safe ship. The likelihood that anyone would ever need the lifeboats was slim. What was more, the weather had turned colder. To hold a lifeboat drill out on the open boat deck would expose his crew to the freezing wind. Finally, if he held the drill as scheduled, Captain Smith would not be able to conduct Sunday services in the first-class dining saloon. Leading Sunday services was one of his favorite parts of being a ship's captain. This was, after all, his last voyage. It seemed a shame to give up the last chance to perform one final service for his first-class passengers, many of whom were his friends. Captain Smith decided to cancel the lifeboat drill. At the same time, he ordered 2 more of the Titanic's boilers to be lit. The ship built up even more steam and plowed through the frigid waters faster than ever.